Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is the author of the upcoming book, You, Me, and All That We Are, which is influenced by the author's relationship with her son. Her name is Emma Rowena Hansen, and here's my interview with Emma. Emma Rowena Hansen, welcome to Apollo Papyrus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm happy having me here. I'm happy to be here.
You were born in Britain, grew up in Norway, and have lived in Cuba and the United States. How has each of those countries influenced who you are?
How much influence? Sorry, I couldn't hear. How much influence those countries have done to me or shown me? Yeah, I was born in England. I had a lot of heritage and roots in the UK. So all my childhood and upbringing, I spent a lot of time in the UK, feeling very much at home there. But I lived in Norway almost all my life. And I had a childhood and a growing up that was a little bit difficult here in Norway. There was trauma in the family, but there was also a little bit of a difficulty for me in fitting into the society, partly because I was half English, partly because I was shy. I have red hair and freckles, which was not the thing to do at that time. And I had a name that was unfamiliar. So every time I went to the UK, I felt more at ease and more myself. And then when I was 8 years old, we had a year in Cuba, and I finally could play and laugh and open up. And then in the teens, 2 years in California helped me to blossom even more. So those countries that are not Norway really, really had a big impact on me growing up. But when I came back to Norway, I had this sort of lid back on me again, on my self-expression, and all the old trauma and fears came up again. So my life was a little bit sort of colored by that fear, not even a little bit. This is what I write a book about. It's about how I've moved from that fear into a place of empowerment and self-love, to the extent that I now can embrace also my Norwegian heritage and my country. So it's actually a very good question for you. It's more impactful also on my book than you might realize. But yeah, I think that was the long answer to your question.
Your book, You, Me, and All That We Are, is described as a heartfelt letter to your son. Without spoiling too much of your book, what is it about, and has it been released yet? And if it hasn't been released, when will it be?
Yes, no, it hasn't been released yet. I'm actually handing in the final manuscript for proofread and for printing on Monday. So the launch date will be announced next week, and it's at the end of May. And that will be on my website as well. But the book is about my journey that I just mentioned, about my journey from being in fear, of being in confusion, of living through my traumas and my pain, and my story of not knowing where to belong, not knowing where I fit in, and not knowing who I am, through an opening up to more of a spiritual realm, if you like, but also to the greater me that I also see in everybody around me, so that I could embrace all that I am, which is part of the title, All That We Are. And this journey started after my son was born. I was quite a confused mother in the beginning. We had a very strong connection. We still do. He's now 17. And my son taught me a lot, and he taught me what love was, because I had no connection to love or to joy, only moments of it, but not in my essence, not in my core. And when I got to know this beautiful soul, I started to understand that I too had access to this beautiful sensation or being or state of being that love is. And I started searching and started opening up to my more clairvoyant and intuitive abilities, and to the greater realm, the higher wisdom that I now know that we all possess, that we all have access to, or I believe. I can only speak for myself. We can only speak for ourselves. But my son showed me, he opened up my heart, as you might say it, but he also, in a way, showed me how to become he taught me how to become a better person and a better mother, simply by being who he is. And hope that I have become a better person and a better mother. That's what I've been striving for. So my testimony to him, a young man, as he is becoming, who is on his own path, finding his own way. He has his own intuition at times, and he's sort of not really very much into that at the moment, but he, if he ever wants to explore the journey that I've been on and the insights that I've gained on this journey and the thoughts and reflections that I have and the tools that I share with meditations and exercises, then I welcome him to that book. Now, again, it's very important for me that this is if he wants it to be, but it's a gift that he can open if he wants. And not only for him, but also for his peers, young people seeking to find out who are they. And this is a big passion for me. Who is this young generation? Who are they? A lot of them are in chaos and confusion, and there's a lot of information about wars and atrocities and environmental issues, and there's a lot of fear. A lot of young people struggle to have hope for the future, for their future, but they have it within them, I find. And I've seen that through my son. I see it through a lot of young people. They have this beauty in them, this power, this passion that if it is nourished and if they're allowed to find their way, if they're guided with love, they can actually thrive and contribute to making this world a better place. So it's my gift, yes, to my son, but also my humble contribution to hopefully a better world.
The tagline of your book is unveiling your life's beauty and magic. Can you explore the deeper meaning behind this idea?
Yes, I touched upon it briefly. It has to do with our greatness. It has to do with connecting to that core, the essence that I believe that we all have in us, and that I also see when clients come to me. I find it in them, in my energy readings. I see this beauty in them that they've been hiding between structures and pain and confusion and patterns that have been taught us up through generations. And when you start to listen to who you are, when you stop a minute and ask the question, okay, is this really true for me? You can start to listen and hear your own inner voice and your own wisdom. And when that happens, you find a place in there, at first maybe just a little flicker or maybe just a little spark of joy and love that can expand and can become your foundation in your life. And that's the beauty and the magic. Because when you stand on a foundation of self-worth, of self-love, of compassion and respect for yourself and others, I believe it starts with yourself, because when you have that for yourself, it will naturally also emanate out to other people. When you have that foundation, when you have that connection to your essence, to your beauty, to the divine in you, which has also become part of my experience, that we have a greater connection, then I find that the beautiful things, the beautiful visions and dreams and emotions in and around you start to unfold. And that's what I call the magic and the beauty of your life. And I think we all can access it. And what I repeat in the book again and again, if you search, if you want to search, if you seek, you will find it. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you have to stumble. Sometimes you need help. Sometimes you use a tool that somebody gives you, such as in my book, I offer some tools. And in order to be able to find it, and sometimes you have to repeat the exercises or the tools or the thoughts until they become a natural part of you, and you can start to lean back and relax and receive that beauty that you are and that your life can be. So that's my little mission here.
In your book, you encourage parents to embrace curiosity, playfulness, and intuition as superpowers. How do these qualities counteract fear and self-loathing and contribute to personal growth and connection with loved ones?
Well, curiosity especially curiosity is the one trait that I call the superpower, but also intuition. I think intuition comes from the curiosity. If you children are naturally curious. And when they're curious, they learn, they grow, they heal, they find their way, they explore. And this curiosity has a lot of power in it. It has the power to look a little beyond yourself and observe something at a distance, if you like. And you can do that with yourself as well. So if you start to be curious about, why am I reacting this way? Why am I feeling this fear now? And you start asking that question, I find that what you automatically do is step back a little bit, or step a little outside of yourself, if you like, without detaching, but stepping a little outside, and you can see and you can maybe understand the mechanisms that have come into your life and that are usually not yours. Very many of our patterns and mechanisms that we have been taught are constructions and not necessarily in tune with our nature. And when you're curious, you start to observe and you start to sense and you start to listen, and you will start to fine tune your sensory apparatus, if you like, that in order to discover what feels good for you and what doesn't. And that which feels good to your core, in your heart, that is in alignment with you. That is right. And when you start doing that, you become more yourself. You come home to yourself, and you will discover that there is nothing to fear, unless, of course, fear is also a very natural emotion. We need that to survive. So it's a survival instinct. But a lot of the fear that we have is unnecessary because we've been taught it. Stress, worry, all this. And a lot of the things we fear will never come to life. So coming back to yourself and understanding that no matter what, you've got yourself. And you're grounded in yourself, and you've got your own heart, and you've got your own strength, and your own. I usually say we are infinite souls in a body, or manifested through a body. You're always there. You always have you. And when you're curious and you develop your intuition, you will also start to understand what moves that are good for you, that are in alignment with who you are and what you wish to create in this world, what you're here for, maybe. And the fear is not needed anymore in the same sense. You can also start to release, if you're curious about what does this come from. Oh, that's a pain because I was rejected in my childhood. And I experienced a lot of rejection and disruption in my childhood. And it has taken me until, well, after my son was born, and then it was the catalyst was my breakup with my son's father. So it's taken me some years to dare to even look at my mechanisms thoroughly and just ask, what are they? Are they mine? And if the answer is no, they're not mine. I don't need them. They're not helping me. They're from the past, and I can finish the past. And then you start to release the pain as well. So it's a fantastic tool, I find, curiosity leading to intuition, for healing and for growth and for blossoming into your fullest beauty, because I believe that each and every one of us has beauty, our beauty in an essence. We just have to discover it in ourselves.
Your book is divided into 3 parts: Master Yourself, Master Your Life, and Master Transformation. Can you explain the inspiration behind this division and how each of these parts work together?
Indeed. That's very interesting, because these parts actually materialized as I was working. I hadn't planned on that. I started writing the book a few years ago, and then COVID hit, and other things happened in my life. And I started focusing on different projects that I could do in the shutdown that we had here in Norway as well. And then we had a traumatic incident in our family. My son's father had a severe stroke. So all these things caused a stop in the writing. The first part, I started to share what my fear was, and how I had started to evolve from it, how I had started to heal from it. So mastering myself, mastering my emotions, mastering my fear through the opening up to the higher realm and to the higher wisdom and to my heart. And then after COVID and after this incident, I started writing again. I had forgotten that I'd written the first part, started writing and discovered wait a minute, there's a document here with the same name. And I opened it and I found the first part of the book. And it was a tone that I liked. So I continued on it, but from the new place, which, due to the COVID experience and due to our trauma in the family, was more centered around how to handle what life brings you. And how to use the tools that I learned through mastering myself, as you would say, in mastering the obstacles around you and the path that life reveals to you, or that you embark on. And then the last bit, the transformation bit, which is actually very interesting, because suddenly, interesting to me at least, suddenly, as I was writing this, and I felt sort of that I was empowered, I felt I was owning my truth, and suddenly another story hit, and everything had to change in my and my son's life. We had to move, we had to let go of our house, we had to, because of incidents around his father, and we had to sort of separate our ways a little bit. We still live together partly, but he's now living more with his father, and I had to move from my community, and everything. I felt I was losing everything, and my whole career situation was changing. And I knew eventually, when I started writing in the middle of this, at first I thought, okay, I'll just write what's going on. And the book is a little bit like a journal. So I continued the journal. It's partly journal and partly letters to my son. As I continued the journal, I was writing from this place of confusion and fear, and so it was the old trauma coming back, but in a different way. And as I wrote, I discovered that I could share how I was transforming the difficult situation that I was in, the challenges, the emotional challenges and the physical challenges. I could transform that by employing what I had been practicing and learning, and what I had been writing about earlier. So I could share that with the audience. This is it. We're dealing with the transformation, and we can use what we've learned. And the more we've learned, the more we've grown, the more empowered we are in employing this and in the transformation and moving forward. So that now, again, I know that I'm back, I'm home again, I'm myself again, and I've got, what should I say, the power again, if you like. So that was how those three evolved, those three phases of the book, if you like. Yeah, and they all the phases have their exercises and meditations as well that I offer, and they're sort of aimed both at the young generation, as I said, but also at parents who want to find their own, as you mentioned in the last question as well, to heal themselves, because then it's when you heal yourself, you offer, as an example, the opportunity for the young generation to heal themselves and to come home to themselves, but you also come closer to trusting yourself as a parent, and to listening to your child or your children in a different way, maybe, perhaps, hopefully, with more openness and more understanding that we're different people and we're all finding our way, rather than telling them what to do. Maybe understanding, okay, we're different, how can I help you on your path? So that's my wish for the parents who might read this book.
Will your book be self-published, traditionally published, or hybrid published?
Self-published, absolutely. So it will be out on Amazon and well, mainly Amazon, from the end of May. Yeah, and the information on it is, as I said earlier, on my website. There's more information there.
In addition to your book that you've written, you're also a classical pianist. How did you become a classical pianist, and what has your work as a pianist been like?
Well, that's actually part of my first part, especially, of the book. I'm a classically trained pianist. I studied piano at here in Norway at the Academy of Music here, and my father was the inspiration for playing music. He used to play music, but sort of at home. He wasn't allowed to study music by his parents when he was young. It wasn't good enough for them, and so he played, but he was more on the jazz side, and I couldn't quite, because of all my fear of not doing it right, not finding the flow. I didn't let myself loose in the music. So I needed the rules. So somebody taught me the classical music, and I tried to do it perfectly and exactly as I should. And I got into the academy and I graduated and I performed for 15 years with fantastic singers, mainly here in Norway and abroad. And learned a lot, but I suffered from stage fright because again, I was trying to fit in and do it perfectly, and I lost sight of the music in that. So eventually I stopped playing the classical music and I started creating my own music. And that's one of the things I did during the shutdown of the COVID. I released my first solo album with my music on Spotify. It's called Dreamer. And I'm about to start creating another album that I hope will be out during this year. I had to take a break from the classical, from the idea that I had to play a certain way. And now my son is studying music and he's inspiring me to come back to playing a bit of classical again. So I might open up for that as well in the future. But that was part of my journey of moving from trying to do the right thing and be what everybody else thought, or what I thought everybody else thought I should be and do, and finding my own voice. Again, the healing journey for me.
You are an intuitive reader, healer, and theta healing practitioner. How do you help others through spiritual healing and meditation?
Yes, I have. I offer online guided meditations. They're intuitively guided. So anybody on my YouTube channel, you can find them there, and I sometimes do live ones on Facebook or YouTube. But I also have. I did a training for intuitive energy readings, which means reading not future predictions as much as looking at what the person is stuck in what blocks, what limiting beliefs they are living through that are blocking them from opening up to their potential and to their heart, to the love in their heart, and to their own connection to their intuition and to the higher wisdom. And I do that both online and live. I usually work mainly with the energy healing, where I tune in to the images of the soul of the person in front of me. And then the information comes to me. It's like a channeled healing. The theta healing helped me to deepen my practice. I find that I work better in the other more flowing way. It's a bit faster for me. The theta healing involves more asking questions and working sort of back and forth with the client, which I also bring into my work, but not as pure as I know Viana Stibal wants the theta healer to do. So I can't really say that I do the theta healing fully when I work with my clients normally, unless they ask me to. I work to help clients release trauma, to help them to release bodily trauma, to find their own passions, to find their source of creativity, to release or heal or embrace relationships and old wounds that they have often from parents, and not because the parents are wrong necessarily, but because they did their best from whatever they had available to them. So opening up the whole space and allowing the old stale belief systems and energies to shift and move is a very, very big part of that work. And from that, they can choose their own path. They can find what they want to create. They can sort of create their own future. So that's why I don't really do predictions, because that often blocks people into setting their sight in one direction rather than listening to themselves. So I hope to empower people through the work.
Emma, that was my final question. Thank you for appearing on Apollo Papyrus. You were an amazing guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to be here and to answer your questions.
Emma was an insightful guest, and her book will be released on July 10th. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to write and read your passion. Bye for now. Remember to subscribe to the Apollo Papyrus YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@ApolloPapyrus and the Apollo Papyrus Substack newsletter at apollopapyrus.substack.com. Y'all can visit the Apollo Papyrus website at campaaronapollo.wixsite.com/Apollo Papyrus and follow Apollo Papyrus on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr at Apollo Papyrus. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.